Hello everyone, Super Genius Seb here, and today I'm going to be discussing whether or not pistons in Minecraft Pocket / Windows 10 / Gear VR / all those other names edition should be transparent or solid / opaque. Okay, so what does that mean? In Minecraft, there are generally two different types of blocks in terms of how they react with things being placed on them in Redstone. There's solid blocks, which these blocks here on the left are all an example of, and there's transparent blocks, which are all these on the right. And then there's also stairs and slabs, which are sort of special case, in that they, when placed like this, their top halves are considered solid, but everything else is considered to be transparent about them. And even when you place them upside down, you can't take a lever and put it underneath. It won't work. And you also can't on stairs put levers or anything on the side. And likewise for all these transparent blocks, you can't put levers on any of these, and can't put redstone on top of any of these either. But anyway, pistons in Minecraft Pocket Edition seem to currently be a bit of a strange hybrid between the two, and I've got some examples here to show you that. But first of all, before we begin, I'd like to point out right now that a piston which is extended and a piston which is not extended, like so, will still act with redstone and have blocks placed on them the same way. So, if redstone doesn't get transferred through this block, it won't get transferred through this one, and vice versa. So, whether or not the piston is extended doesn't matter in terms of how it transfers power and such. But anyway, for these examples, I'm going to be using this blue lapis to represent behavior that is solid / opaque, and gold blocks here to represent behavior that is transparent style. So here, as you can see, when this solid block here, I'm going to be using three different blocks here: stone bricks, glass, and pistons in the middle. Stone bricks are solid, glass is transparent, and pistons, well, it depends on the situation. Here I'm powering this repeater, and the repeater is going into this block. The repeater strongly powers this block, and since it is solid / opaque, it will weakly power these redstone lamps here on the sides that are adjacent to it. For a transparent block, it does not transfer power to anything, and so it does not weakly power stuff. As for pistons, it does not do it either. So in this case, it acts like a transparent block. And since I actually haven't made an example of this, and I just realized I just pointed out right now that pistons, in terms of block transparency, which is not always the same as being transparent, they let light through. So right now, it's still just as bright as it would be if there was glass. So that's interesting. You can have solid blocks that let light through, but I just thought I'd point that out right now to get that out of the way. But moving on, here's another example. Here, this block has redstone dust pointing into it, and then this repeater over here is actually able to pick up the signal through the block, since this is being powered here, and it can then power this lamp. But over here, the transparent block cannot have its signal be transferred to this repeater. The repeater cannot pick it up, it's not powered. And so the piston, once again, in this case, is acting like a transparent block. But here's where things get a little unusual. This is a solid block here. As you can see, this block right here is cutting off this redstone wire, so it can't power that lamp. Here we have the transparent block, which, as you can see, does not restrict the redstone and allows it to finish. And here we have a piston, which in every case so far has acted like a transparent block. So you'd think the redstone dust would be able to pass through. And on the Java edition, it does. But on the Pocket Edition / Windows 10 Edition, it does not. It actually acts as a solid block in this case. And you may have noticed that I put levers on these pistons over here, and that leads us to the next example over here. Solid blocks can have redstone dust placed on top, torches on the side, and levers and such. And as you can see, when I pull this lever, the redstone dust turns on because this is strongly powering this block, which in turn powers this redstone. This transparent block can't even have anything attached to it at all, and so you can't put torches, you can't put levers, you can't put redstone, and yeah. As for the piston, though, you can put torches on it, you can put redstone on it, and you can put levers on it like so, and look at that. The redstone dust is still on there even as it's extended, and interestingly enough, it kind of acts like a solid block in this case, but if you'll notice, the redstone dust is not powered, which is interesting. So this leads to two things. For consistency, this is labeled as a bug with the whole thing of them blocking the signal like so. This is listed a bug on a bug tracker, and there's no real response to it yet. But the question is, should pistons act like transparent blocks, or should they act as solid opaque blocks? Here is what they act like right now if they're transparent blocks. We strongly power this piston, and since it's transparent, it does not transfer power to any of the adjacent pistons. And this is good for like controlled things such as trying to create a pixel display and such, and makes it kind of easy to not have to worry about accidentally powering other pistons that are next to each other. However, blocks like the redstone lamp and what pistons would be like if they were solid and opaque act like this. Strongly power this one, and it weakly powers the other ones. And I could even put a redstone lamp here, and it would power. And other blocks that work this way include like dispensers and droppers and all other like solid blocks and stuff. So actually, this would be kind of interesting for like piston walls. If you wanted to push lots of pistons at once, I'm having a hard time saying that word. You could just have to power one, and you'd be able to power up to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And for things like piston doors and stuff, you could just power the top one, and it would also power the bottom one, and this one on top, allowing you to have like 3 pistons, all powered by a single line, which could be quite useful. But if you have this, it can remove some of the flexibility you have with this. You kind of lose some of the control you would have otherwise. And so that's where we're into a bit of a problem. Which one would you rather have? Would you rather have this or this? Because if pistons were if pistons were transparent, you wouldn't be able to do this. You wouldn't be able to put like levers and stuff or torches on them, or redstone. And this is actually kind of useful and cool. And you wouldn't be able to like do things like this. So it's a matter of which one do you want. Unless, potentially, what if there were 2 types of pistons? Let's say, for example, maybe a wooden piston that acts like a transparent block, and a cobblestone piston, which would be this one, which acts like a solid block. Or maybe it could be iron and gold or something. I don't know. Now, there are other kinds of pairs of blocks like this already in the games. There's dispensers, which can do special functions for certain items, like dispensing buckets of water and placing the water, or like using flint and steel, or using bone meal, or shooting arrows. And droppers, they always shoot out the items as items. They don't like use the lava buckets. And then there's wooden pressure plates, which can be activated by anything falling on them. Then there are stone pressure plates, which can only be activated by entities and not items. Then there are the weighted pressure plates, which depend on the number of unique entities on them. And then there are like the button pair. Wooden buttons are 1.5 ticks. I don't know if that's... I think that's like redstone ticks, not game ticks. And I believe the stone buttons are 1 redstone tick, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. So there could be 2 types of pistons, and I think this might make sense in a way, or at least it makes more sense than some other suggestions I've seen. For example, with the whole issue of quasi-connectivity, which I could make a whole video on. some people suggested making like quasi-pistons or pistons that act like the pistons in Java Edition and are affected by quasi-connectivity, so you could have both types of pistons. But I personally feel like that doesn't really make sense. Like Redstone has a sort of logic to it. Like there's power sources, there's strong power, and there's weak power, and quasi-connectivity does not really make sense to me. And I'll just touch on this real quickly, even though it's slightly unrelated. If in Pocket Edition, if you do, for example, this, I'll just take a lever right here and power this. As you can see, nothing happens. And of course, why should it? This repeater can only power blocks that are in front of it, and so why would this piston move? Well, in Java Edition, due to the way quasi-connectivity works, pistons like this wind up getting powered if the block above them would be powered, if there was a block. And so, as you can see, it basically acts as if there was a block there if in quasi-connectivity, even though there isn't a block. But here in Pocket Edition, it works as it's supposed to. There's nothing there, the piston does not get powered. And so, yeah. I don't think quasi-connectivity makes sense. It doesn't, like, fit in with any existing rules, whereas I think this suggestion for two types of pistons would make more sense because it doesn't interfere with any existing Redstone rules. Like, we have transparent and solid blocks already, so I don't think having two types of pistons, one acting like a transparent block and the other as a solid, would break, like, any rules. I think it would still be consistent with the rest of Redstone, but it might be a little, still might be a bit odd, and perhaps there are better ways, and maybe it's not worth it. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments, and yeah, I thought this was an interesting topic to discuss because Minecraft Pocket Edition has been getting a lot of updates lately, particularly in like Redstone and such, and it's sort of still in that stage where a lot of things can change and be modified. I hope for the best in terms of how things get developed, and this has sort of popped up to me as a sort of interesting possibility of what if, because this is actually pretty cool, and so is like this. That is really neat. But at the same time, I don't want to like lose what we already have with pistons, which in a way makes sense. So yeah, this right here is actually something unrelated. I've actually discovered a little neat, unique property about hoppers in Pocket Edition, but that's for another video. Sort of a teaser what's to come. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, and please make sure to click the like button and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I thank you all for watching. I'm Super Genius Eb, and I will see you again in... No, wait. I will not see you again. I can't see you at all. And I will talk to you again in the next video. Goodbye.